Hey Northwood, thanks for joining us for Church at Home. Before we dive in, do us a favor, snap a picture of your setup or your crew and tag us on Instagram or Facebook. We'd love to see how you're doing church today. Summer is almost here, and with it comes a ton of exciting events. Before we dive into today's service, let's take a quick look at what's coming up. On June 1st, we'll have our prayer and worship night at 5:30 p.m. This night is a special time for us to come together as a community, seek the presence of God, and connect with fellow believers. This summer, we are offering an event designed for kids and students who are interested in worship and production. The NC Creative Labs are open to children ages 9 to 18. This event will be on June 16th through June 20th at the Gulfport location from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Parents, if you have a child interested in this event, you can go to northwood.church/creative to learn more. Registration for our NC Kids Summer event opens today. This event provides an opportunity for kids to grow in their understanding of Jesus, build lasting friendships, and of course have a ton of fun. This year's theme is Live It Out, where kids will learn what it means to love one another, forgive one another, and serve one another just as Jesus did. You can sign them up at northwood.church/NCKidsSummer. This summer, we are hosting a men's and a women's night at each location. The men's night will be on July 13th, and the women's night will be on July 20th. Whether you're brand new or you've been around for a while, these events are the perfect time to connect with others and continue to grow in Christ. To wrap up the summer, we are having our Night of Worship ×4 on August 3rd. All 4 locations will gather in Gulfport to worship together. You won't want to miss it, so be sure to put it on your calendar now. That's everything for now. Stick around. We've got an incredible conversation coming up. And don't forget, tag us in those Church at Home pics.
Hey everybody, I hope you're doing good today. This is Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day is a special day that we put aside to remember those men and women who they gave their lives for the freedom that we enjoy. And, I know I'm personally grateful. I know that you're probably grateful too for the sacrifice that they have given for us. And even though this weekend is filled with it's fun, it's a day off of work, it's a great thing. We got to remember that our freedom isn't free. And I thank God for the people who went before us and paved the way for the life that we're all able to enjoy today. But before we kind of move on, I wanted to take just a few minutes and before we jump into the main part of today's service, and I want to give you all some updates on Northwood. This year, we've already seen 56 people baptized at Northwood. We're constantly hearing stories of God working in people's lives through the people of Northwood, through the ministry of Northwood. And, we've seen our in-person Sunday morning attendance increase 26% this May compared to last May. Super exciting. Guys, look, we've seen financial giving increase significantly this year. And so I want to thank you personally for that. That's amazing. Speaking of finances, we're halfway through paying off the $1 million loan we used to finance the completion of our Ocean Springs location and also to fund the remodels of both our Gulfport and Wiggins locations. Gulfport's a mess right now. Wiggins is going to be a mess soon, but that's all good because it's supposed to be a mess because we're remodeling and they're going to look amazing once we're done with it. So can't wait for that. Also, we just celebrated 14 seniors who graduated high school at our last Northwood Students Night. So I want to give a shout out to those seniors. I also want to give a shout out to Pastor Micah and his team for leading our students so well. We're also gearing up, like Amber just mentioned, for a great July. We got a lot of things planned. The first thing is the NC Kids event that's coming up. It's always a party, but we're adding something special this year, a men's and women's night. These nights are a time for us to cast vision to men and women for what it looks like to be a godly man and woman. We're going to be talking about some vision for men and women's groups even coming up in the fall. And honestly, our heart is to create an environment where people could connect, we can have a good time, we could worship, and also it's always a little bit different when it's just men or just women that gather. And so I think it's going to be a great time. Also, our students are going to be going to Fuge later that month, which if it weren't for the lack of sleep, I'd still want to be a part of that. But anyway, these are all opportunities for you and your family to grow, both in relationships with other people in your church, but also to grow in a relationship with Jesus. And so I just want to encourage you to take advantage of these gatherings and prioritize them. You might need to reschedule some things, move it around on the calendar to make space, but I think this is going to be a great summer for our church as a community. We also just wrapped up our spring group semester, and we're gearing up already for the fall. And I know there are a lot of you who are looking for a group, and some are looking to jump back into a group. And so I kind of want to give you a heads up on a couple of things. This coming semester, we're going to have great options for you. We're going to have some groups for marriage, for parenting, for finances, as well as groups specifically for men and women. And I think the fall semester of groups is going to be, again, a great time for our church to grow. I think it's going to be the best groups yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing us grow healthier as a people, as a church, and collectively as a church. And so that's just a little update for you on the life of the church in the next few months at NC. Let me just take a second and kind of set up the rest of the service by highlighting the sermon series that we've been in. It's called My House, Building and Stewarding a Healthy Home. We've talked about my marriage, my kids, and my money. And these are three areas of each family that all are designed by God to operate in a certain way. But there's a plan that the enemy has to undermine God's design. So we want to be aware of that. And we want to approach these three parts of our lives with intentionality and learn what the Bible says about these things. So me and my wife Nadine, we had a conversation with a couple in our church about these three areas and how they've navigated challenges and these different seasons of life as a family. So I know you're going to get a lot of help and be encouraged.
Hey, I'm Jeffry.
And I'm Morgan.
We've been married for 23 years.
Yes. We have 4 kids. We have several businesses.
We live in Wiggins. We have been a part of Northwood for 19 years now.
And we are so excited for you to come check out our house.
Well, hey everybody, glad that you're joining us today. We are here at the Peters establishment, the farm. You call it the farm?
We do.
J&P Farms.
J&P Farms. And you can't see it right now, but I've got cows that I'm looking at right now. And I don't know, that's not a normal thing that happens in Gulfport where I live. We got possums though. We got a lot of those.
We have those too.
Yeah, yeah. We actually have, we've shot some of those possums a long time ago.
Yes.
We did.
Yeah.
In the back of a pickup truck. You were back there.
Yep. It was an exciting time. I would say don't ever do that. It's very unsafe. But about 5 guys went rolling through the pasture around here up in Carnes, and we shotguns and pistols, and we just went to killing rodents one night. It was a New Year's Eve night. Yeah, one of our buddies actually lost his hearing in one of his ears because of that night. So
Unfortunate, but worth it.
definitely worth it. We're still talking about it like 15 years later, so definitely worth it. But you guys know what's going on. We've been in a series called My House, and it's one thing to teach on certain subjects, but it's another thing to have conversations about how that like practically plays out in our lives. And so my wife Nadine's here. We're here with Jeffrey and Morgan, and we've all known each other for a long time, probably getting close, 19-ish years now, and really good friends. And so what's cool about being friends with somebody for so long is that you grow up, you mature together, and you see, like for us, watching y'all, we've seen y'all, have kids and then raise those kids, and now like they're launching, getting engaged and all this kind of stuff. And so basically what we're going to do is just kind of jump in and let's have a little segment called Meet the Peters, shall we? So tell us how you guys met, how you got to Northwood, kind of what brought you to Northwood, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, we met at USM. She was singing at the Baptist Student Union.
Yes.
She was on stage, and I told my buddy that I need to meet that girl. She's good looking. So he introduced us, and it went from there. We went on a date about a week after that.
You were a sophomore, right? And so honestly, I kind of dismissed him asking for my number because I was like, well, originally I thought he was like a senior and he was just trying to talk to a freshman, So I didn't even really give him the time of day, honestly. And then from there, we started dating and never looked back.
So you guys get married. When did you move to Wiggins area?
So we got married the summer of my freshman year, and he wanted to go ahead and go to work. He really didn't want to go to college to start with, and his parents kind of made him go for a couple years. And so
I actually flunked out of college.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. My first year at Southern, I went to MGCCC for 1 year, and I had like a 3.5, but then went to Southern and got on suspension.
Yeah.
No, got on probation, and then
Yeah.
I got on suspension the last semester and
Right.
went to work. That's what
So
I
we
wanted to
really
do in the
didn't
first
have a
place.
choice.
Good, man. I
But-
tell you, we should, all students just don't watch the fun video. Right?
Yeah.
I want to be just like Mr. Jeffry.
I know.
But I want people to realize that I'm a real person.
Absolutely.
You know,
Right.
for
I
sure.
have it. I don't have it all together.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
didn't have, you know.
And college is not for everyone. And he kind of knew that going in. Like, he really was like, I want to open a business.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do.
That's
So
right.
he kind of had that mindset. And I mean, he was ready to go to work. So we got married that summer. He started working for his dad in Lucedale at the hardware store. And I actually was working also at the hardware store, helping with some of the office stuff. And then I was taking classes still so I could finish my degree.
Yeah.
It was shortly. I mean, we only were in Lucedale for 9 months, and then we saw an opportunity to come to Wiggins because there was a store kind of going out of business, and we saw an opportunity for Morgan and I to open our own business in Wiggins, a build supply hardware store, and that's where it began. We started construction and built a business, and
Yep. And
that was our little baby and our little red wagon. We had to pull it. So
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was August of 2003 that we opened the Wiggins location.
Okay.
So
So now it's 2025. I guess just a big snapshot about like the last, 22 years now. Like, I know obviously you guys have multiple businesses now. Kind of just give us like an overview of like how those businesses have grown or how many you have now. Kind of, just a
Sure.
snapshot.
So end of 2019, my dad decided to retire. And so I bought the Lucedale location from my dad. Morgan and I did. And I started going to Lucedale, going to Wiggins, and going back and forth. And through that process, I relied more on my staff and my team members to actually, like, I'm not there. You have to make a decision. Like, you're fully equipped. And so with me being in between the stores, my staff had just like taken the reins and ran with it. And I just have a great team around me. And that's allowed me to actually open other businesses because they're really just taking care of the store while I'm out.
Right.
And so we have opened some storage facilities. We opened a Brick Street Social, which is a barbershop men's store downtown. We have a Sleepy Bear, a restaurant in town, and
Plant and Patio.
Plant and Patio, yeah.
My baby.
Which is her little baby. And it's all about her and what Plant and Patio is you. It's a beautiful picture of Morgan. And when you go in there, it's a special place.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, all right, question. As far as just the last few years, what drives you guys to even want to start more businesses? And you know what I'm saying? Like, is it just the money? Is it, like, what's the behind the scenes heart behind wanting to, start more businesses and do what you do?
Well, we love our community and we want to see our community grow. We want to create a cool place for people to come and visit.
Yeah. I think that's evident, just as a person that has gone obviously to these places. It's not just, it's kind of why I asked. It's like, I know it's more than just about the money or the dollar or the whatever. There's a culture around it,
When we started Jack's Wiggins, we would have Christmas parties and we always invite the employee and their spouse. And I think our first party, there was like 6 or 7, 8 people maybe. And now our last Christmas party was 72 people.
Whoa.
And so it's awesome to me that we get to impact that many lives in our community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. So church-wise, you guys, how did y'all hear about Northwood? Like, how did that even happen?
So when we moved to Wiggins, we tried several churches and never found a home. We were a part of a church and would wake up, get ready, get the kids ready, and we're like, let's just go eat.
I mean,
Because
it's
it
true.
was just we didn't find life.
Yeah.
And
Well, we just didn't find what fit for us. And so one of our things was he grew up Methodist, I grew up Baptist. And so we were kind of trying to find like, where do we fit, as
a
a
family,
couple
yeah.
and a family. Yeah. And it was just, we tried different denominations. And we, nothing exactly felt like home. We kind of had a place where we landed for a while, and it was a great church. But when we walked in the doors at Northwood the first time, we were like, okay, this is our place.
Yeah.
So
It was different, but it was a good different.
Yeah.
right.
Awesome.
Yeah. We actually got a little flyer in the mail.
We did. We got a postcard
Hey-o.
when we were opening the Wiggins location.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
Look at the postcards mattering.
I mean,
who would have known?
yeah.
Come on.
and
Yeah.
here we are 20 years later.
So we've been in this series, My House, and it's really around three things. Again, marriage, money, and kids. And so what we kind of want to do is just take some time and talk about each of those areas because, we'll kind of throw some of our story in there as well, just where we're at in our phase of life. Again, just to help people where they're at. And, maybe, again, I think a lot about people who are single and people who are kind of, students and people that are in college. They're looking ahead. And I think it's so helpful for people to hear the reality behind the scenes, the heart behind the scenes, in order to kind of follow in some footsteps of, if you want a successful family, you want a successful business, what does that even look like? And then how do you do that in a way that honors God?
Yes.
Because you can listen to a lot of podcasts and all kind of stuff out there, but a lot of it's void of that whole entire, perspective.
Right.
Like, what does it look like to be a God honoring family, have a God honoring marriage or business or whatever? And so, so we talked about choosing a spouse in week one. Again, thinking about people who are sort of searching for a spouse. What was the mindset behind that for you guys? Like, we know how you met, but then it's like, what were you looking for in a spouse, and then how'd that work out? And
So I will say that when we did meet, neither one of us were like looking to date someone. We kind of were just settling in to who we were. And, I was a new freshman at USM, so I definitely was just trying to figure out, what does life look like? But I did actually have a list of qualities that I was looking for in a man. My senior year, my Sunday school teacher had all of us girls make a list. And I was like, this is kind of dumb, but it really does make you think about, okay, what am I looking for? What's important to me? What's something that's a non-negotiable? Like, he has to love the Lord. Like, I don't want to be the one leading this relationship, and he needs humor, which I definitely found if you know Jeffry.
you got a double portion.
So I did have a list, and when we met, we did meet at a campus ministry. So it was cool that we had that in common.
So how did y'all, what did the whole process of dating to marriage look like for you guys? Kind of what's that story?
So when we started dating, we were inseparable. We fell in love quickly, and we were just so connected, and we were all on the same page. And I knew that she was going to be my wife, and that happened a little sooner than what we anticipated. She wound up getting pregnant. Shortly after we were dating, it was.
Well, so we found out in like May of.
Yes.
We started dating the beginning of the school year, and then I found out I was pregnant in May.
Yes. So as soon as we found out that she was pregnant, we got married.
Yeah.
And
but I will say, we didn't just get married because we were pregnant. Like, we knew that we loved each other. I was fortunate enough that I loved this man for who he was, not just that we were going to have a baby together. So.
That was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had in my life, is telling my parents that, Morgan's pregnant.
Right.
But the next thing I said is, I want to get married. Yeah. And so that's what we did.
Yeah. I think it's such an important part of y'all's story, and that's a part of a lot of people's story.
Yeah.
And, anytime that, mistakes are made, a lot of times there's shame attached and guilt and shame. And we all understand why that happens. We understand the way that we think and
right.
society and culture, and we know what the word says and all that kind of stuff. And it's important, of course, what the word says. But what do you do, right? What's the proper response? And because there's a mistake or a failure in an area, that's not the end, know.
Right.
And I think so many times people have those types of situations in their life, and they carry the baggage of the shame and the heaviness of that. and they forget redemption, the redemption of God, the redemption of a story,
Right.
and they carry that into their relationship, they carry it to their marriage, they carry it to their future. So their past weighs down their future, and it's always like this thing. And first off, I appreciate y'all sharing that
Yeah.
because people, again, you don't know if people don't talk
Right.
about it.
Exactly.
And I know a lot of people need hope and encouragement, whether it's, pregnancy before marriage, it could be a plethora of other mistakes, but it's still the same pattern of like, hey, it's not the end.
Right.
Righteous person, get back up, keep going, keep moving forward.
I'll never forget when I was telling like some of my friends and stuff from church that I was pregnant. This older couple that I knew that I just esteemed in the church, I respected them so much. They were like, "That's our story," and I was like, "I can't believe that. Like they're so perfect, And it just really, really made me feel, that's the value of your testimony. Is I didn't feel the shame as much because I was like, "There's hope. I can turn this into something that's positive, and my life is not over."
Right.
I feel like so many times we, like you said, we make a mistake or we have a failure, and it's just kind of like, well, God can't use me now.
Yep. So this would be a question. It's kind of a broad question. Is how has your relationship, your marriage, has it been tested throughout the years? How has it been tested? And then also tested, but also how has your relationship changed through the years?
I mean, obviously, when we got married, we were young. I was 19. He was 20. No, 18 and 20. And so, we were immature. We weren't really adults. We thought we were. We thought we knew the answers to everything. But we had a lot to learn, and we had a lot to learn, like how to be married, how to work together as a team, how to make decisions together. There would be sometimes he would just make a decision, and I'm like, hold up, we didn't talk about this,
Right.
But you adapt and you learn how to compromise and you learn how to talk about things together. And I think we're a better team than we've ever been. I think we look at things from a team perspective, and we're not going to make a decision without talking to each other. So
Correct. Yeah, whenever me and Nadine first got married, I talk about this quite often, but like the first year of our marriage was absolute trash. It was horrible. You would think the first year of marriage in some senses would be like at least the first few months, right?
Right.
The honeymoon hasn't worn off.
Right.
And us, it was like we got back from the honeymoon and it was like, I disagree with you about everything, like what we're eating for dinner.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we just had a really tough first year. And we ended up going through a small group, kind of like a macro group type thing, like tables. And we went through the book Love and Respect, the curriculum with a group of people. Actually, Carrie and Casey led it. And we were so immature.
Right.
Just so, and that's all it was. It's like, it wasn't really big deals. Like there wasn't anything really happening.
Yeah.
We were just immature and just had to learn how to shut up, And so, but we began to learn about love and respect, and it just changed the dynamic in our relationship.
Right.
A lot of times people, they're struggling in their marriage or going through a bad phase. And a lot of times people bail in those moments. They bail out and they just throw up their hands. And I feel like our marriage is stronger now than it was at any point previously. And one thing that I think about a lot is like, man, there's so many people who are potentially giving up so soon.
Right.
And there's, right on the other side of that barrier in the relationship is this wonderful place of health and trust and whatever, that if you could just hold on, stay together, you go through those difficult things and you grow to love one another more, trust each other more, communicate better, things that we used to argue about. Now it's like it lasts for like 10 seconds, or 10 minutes, and you shrug it off because you're like, this doesn't really matter,
Right.
Whereas back in the day, you're more immature, you're more selfish, and you hold on to things, and then it blows up for 3 days, And but those different phases, there's levels of maturity. Just like if you're a kid growing up, you just get more mature as you get older, hopefully, and it's the same thing in marriage. And so
I think surrounding yourself around friends that have healthy marriages too, something you strive for if your marriage isn't healthy. You just, okay, let me look at them and let me see what they're doing and let me change what I can do in
Right.
our marriage.
Exactly.
So I think having, other friends that have healthy marriages
it makes a
is
difference.
a positive.
And I will say one thing that we never do, if we get in a disagreement, we never talk about divorce. Like that's
Right.
never on the table. That's never a word that we say. Like that's never an option.
Right.
And so I think when you take that out of it, like that's not even an option that, it's like, okay, well, we're going to work through this. There is no out, it's just like, how do we push through? There's no sleeping on the couch. We don't do that.
Yeah.
I might scoot over further.
You talked about that.
When I was talking about marriage, I said, nothing is more awkward than the ride home after an argument. Because, if we got an argument, it's like, how you want to get as close as you can. So if you're driving to the window, leaning over on the window, it's like I want as much space as possible. But guess what? We're still in the same car.
Right.
Nobody's Ubering home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're in this together, even though I can't stand you anymore.
Also, never stop pursuing your wife. You have to pursue. You have to buy those flowers every now and then.
Yeah.
Open that door. Give her the confidence she needs. Give her that, you need to compliment her.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where her confidence comes from is the husband.
Kind of piggybacking on that, what have been the stabilizers in your relationship through the good, through the bad? If you had to say, these are some things that have been stabilizing, aspects of our relationship, or things that we, like you kind of said, hey, complimenting your wife, that's a practice that you have. We don't talk, divorce is never meant, that's a stabilizing factor. What other kind of a couple of nuggets would you have that said, man, this has always been something that stabilized our marriage through all the waves and everything that happened?
I would say church is a big part of that. Kind of like what Nadine was saying, having friends that, you're not surrounding yourself with friends who are like, girl, you need to get out.
Right.
You need to divorce him, and one of my rules is I'm not going to talk bad about my husband. Even if it's my best friend, you're not going to hear me say I wish he would do this or he never does this. That's between me and him. And I may pray that to the Lord. I might be like, why is he like this? But I'm not going to say that to someone else.
I chew too loud. Okay.
He does. He does. And it drives me bananas.
That wasn't on the list.
Yeah, you weren't specific enough.
I know.
It is what it is. I can't help it.
No, I've begun to snore. I'm a snorer now, which I know you're a snorer. And, what are you going to do about that? There's only so many things. And then it's one day I might have to sleep on the couch every now and then just because of that. But, you guys in an argument? I heard you were sleeping on the couch. No, I just am snoring and you can't sleep. So, but yeah, so not talking about each other in front of other people, at least,
Right.
negatively, which is something interesting that, again, whenever we were teaching on this, I was talking about how a lot of times we take scriptures and principles from the word about okay, don't gossip or be slow to anger or whatever, be selfless, all these things. And we apply those to relationships or people that are outside of our family, outside of our marriage.
Right. Yeah.
But then in our marriage, it's the person that I will just be the quickest to just mow down is my spouse.
Yeah.
And it's I wouldn't do that or say it that way to anybody else on the planet,
Right.
but I would say it like that
To the person I love the most.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought of whenever you said that. It's why would I feel okay gossiping to other people about my spouse, but I wouldn't feel okay gossiping to other people about other people?
Right.
Yeah.
It's what,
Yeah.
I think that's that familiarity. You kind of just get too familiar and you kind of lose that reverence of the covenant that you're in and the person that you are one with, the two becoming one.
Right.
And it begins to kind of erode that. And it's the most important relationship, but all of a sudden it becomes the most disposable one,
Years ago, I was I was in my office and Morgan called me and Pastor Mike was in my office. And I just said, oh, it's Morgan. And I just kind of set it off to the side. And he said, you need to treat your wife as good as your best customer.
Ooh.
Which hit home. I'm like, I will never push that call ever again in my life. I'm always, no matter where I'm at, I'm like, because she knows if I'm in a big meeting, she won't disturb me. She'll just text me. But if she's calling, I'm going to answer. And, me having a business where it's, customer based, you really want to take care of your customers. And I have to treat her better than my best customer.
Yeah. All right. Question. What do you feel is your primary responsibility as a husband and a wife?
The protection and keeping us financially stable.
Yeah.
I feel like is my biggest.
I feel like as a wife, one of my biggest responsibilities is to make him his best. If we're in a group setting and I can tell he's unsure about what was said or what to say, like I'll kind of lead him into the answer that I know he wants to say. Like I know what he wants to say.
Yeah.
But I'm there to be his biggest cheerleader and champion him. And I mean, it kind of goes back to not talking bad about him.
Right.
I'm always going to put him in the best light and, try to make him be successful in every aspect of life.
Yeah.
Whenever you say all that, I think about the scripture that talks about God made a helpmate for the
Yes.
man. And the significance and the importance of that. And it's not about lesser value.
Right.
It's not. It's about wholeness and completing one another. And there's certain things the man does, certain things the woman does, and there's a lot of like little roles that hey, maybe this person does this person does this in this marriage, and this person does this in this marriage. Marriages are unique, but man, the clarity in that, right? It's like that you guys know the roles that you both fulfill that complement one another, for there to be wholeness, not only for your marriage, but also for your whole family.
Right.
That there's a stability in that, right?
Yeah.
And there's not a competition, a competitiveness. Sometimes
Right.
you feel that or sense that there's like a competitiveness in relationships and in marriages, and it's this scorekeeping, well, you did that, so I'm doing this, and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, man, it's not the team mentality.
Right.
We're on the same side of the ledger here. Like we're on the same side. It's not me versus you, How do you guys handle conflict?
So the mentality is she's always right.
Okay. All right, that's easy.
That's the mentality. And, then you chat about it and the conflict is she's thinking one way and I'm thinking the other. And we're still meeting at the same goal, but it's just the thought process is different. So once we talk it out,
Right.
things are so much better.
We're probably going to have the same end result, but we're both going to go about it completely different ways.
Okay.
And so there can be some tension there. And I'm like, let's just make a list. And he doesn't want to make a list, But, typically we're on the same page. There have been times that I haven't agreed with what he's chosen to do for the family or, whatever the decision is. But I know that at the end of the day, he's the head of our household and it falls on his shoulders. And I'm secure enough to know that, okay, this is his decision for our family and I'm going to respect that. And, we'll see what happens. And there have been times like that was the right decision. And there have been other times that I'm like, I was right. but I don't go back and say that, I truly think that's what it means to submit to your husband and just to let him, he's the one who has to take the punches also. So, there's a lot of security in that.
Yeah.
Right.
Last thing about this is, a strong family is built on a strong marriage. And in the hustle of raising kids, managing businesses, church, friends, just etc. How do you guys stay close to each other? Like, how do you keep the togetherness, the team dynamic strong in your relationship? And I guess not allow drift.
We're very intentional about date night. We definitely want a date night once every 2 weeks for sure.
Yeah.
If not more than that. We also love drinking coffee together early in the mornings. That's our time together. And as long as we're there and available for each other, you have to be connected and be intentional. If we don't work, nothing works in this house.
Yeah, I would say communication. And just like he said, it's one thing to sit in a room together, but it's another to actually have a conversation with each other. Right. And so to be intentional and, I know I'll ask him a million questions, it's because I care. I want to know, and what's going on? What do we have coming up? What's going on with the kids? How can we help them? So we kind of try to talk through our week. Usually Sunday mornings before church, we sit down and kind of talk through and plan out the whole week. So
Yeah. You said, I want to know. I think the word that came to mind was curiosity. Whenever we're dating or whatever, of course, we're very curious. So how are you? What's it? Blah, blah. But, you get together a long time. And sometimes that wonder or that curiosity about just each fades. Other, it just fades. And it's like, oh, well, it's the same thing today as it was yesterday, as it was the day before.
Right.
It's like, well, we're changing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a verbal processor. She's not. So I'm more the person that's like, you okay? Are you sure? The other day I walked in, I was like, you okay? She was like, yeah. I was like, are you sure? And then she looked, she's like, yeah, I'm fine. I was like, okay, she's good.
Yeah.
But I'm like, are we good? Not that I'm like scared or something. Like, is she okay?
Yeah.
I'm curious because I care. So kind of transitioning, let's talk for a few minutes about kids. You guys have 4 kids. What's interesting, they're all in different phases of life now, so I guess real quick, how old are they? What phases are they in? Because, it's 4 of them, so there's a lot going on there.
So we have 3 boys and a girl. So if you're trying, go for the 4th. No, but we have a 22-year-old Braden who is in the workforce. He's in sales. He is recently engaged, so we're excited to have another girl in the family. Caleb is about to be 20, and he's in school at USM. Trace is 16. He is about to be a junior in high school. And then Allie is 11, and she's about to start 6th grade.
So you got 4 kids. Obviously, they're in different phases, but then, of course, kids are all unique. So you've got unique phases of life. Unique children themselves. They're all,
Big
of course I know them, big personalities.
Yeah.
And in the same way that we've talked about what it looks like to be like a team when you're working on your marriage, what does it look like to be a team whenever you're raising kids?
So I do think that we both had pretty similar upbringings. And so, you kind of bring what your parents did with you to the table already. Right. And, as you're trying to figure it out, it's like, okay, what do we do in this situation? What did our parents do? And so luckily we were very much on the same page. And so a lot of that was pretty easy, I would say, as the kids were younger. I think it's harder as they get older, just because bigger conversations, right? It's real easy to tell a 2-year-old, like, yes, this is right. No, this is wrong. But tell a 14-year-old, well, this is why maybe that movie's not okay, but you're also wanting them to learn to discern that for themselves, and so it's more like guiding and teaching. And
I think it's valuable. We had the same mentality, and it was taught at Northwood, about discipline your children, and running your household. And we were on the same page with that. I will say that we never take sides. Sometimes you have, the kids will say, well, mama did this, mama did that. I've made many mistakes in my life and with raising kids, but she's never taken their side against me.
Right.
When I make a mistake, she will tell me after, like, you did this wrong, or you did this incorrectly. I feel like you should have handled this a little bit better. And then I can go back and say, look, son, I did this incorrectly. You know? But
so the argument is never in front of the kids.
Exactly.
No,
yes.
never.
Yeah, I feel like, we've both been really good at kind of being the mediator for each other also. I mean, kind of on that same, if he's hearing a kid say something and then he's interpreting it this way, but I'm like, that's really not what his heart was. I really think he was trying to say this. I can tell him after the fact, like, hey, I think, this is what he meant when he said that, and you just kind of took it the wrong way. Right. And so, and he'll do the same thing for me. Because, sometimes you're just, it depends on what you walked out of work with and what you're carrying. Yeah. And it's like, wait, what did you just say?
Oh, yeah.
And so, sometimes we can just be in our own stuff, and then we kind of push that on the kids. And that's when it's great to have a team player who can be like, hey, I got this. Like, you go take a minute.
Something that's helped me over the years is, I can be quick to anger. I do the 5-second rule. Give myself 5 seconds to actually breathe, think about the situation, and then go into the situation.
Yeah.
That's all it takes is 5 seconds.
Yeah. it's interesting because that same team mentality that you build together for marriage, you carry that into raising kids in the same dynamics. Like even what you just said, it's like in a moment that he might be emotionally stressed and not able to handle that moment, perfectly or well or whatever. You're like, hey, okay, I know what's going on, and you're a buffer.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've experienced that. Yeah. There's times either way, it's like I'm high strung, something happens with the girls and I'm just like, and then they're girls. So, they're just more, I guess, I don't know, they're kind of more tender, more sensitive. And I come out big voice, and she's just like, just go, I got this. Like, let me handle this. And I'm just like, and then there's other times where I walk in, I'm like, what's going on? And she's just like, something's going on, and I'm just like, just stop. Like, it's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
And but again, not trying to badmouth
each other,
your spouse to the kids.
Yes, for sure.
And then you kind of said something a second ago, I think that's huge, is the honesty of a parent to either ask for forgiveness or admit when you're wrong to your children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Massive thing that I think a lot of people miss, which is like, I'm the parent, I'm always right. It's like, no, you're not. You're a human being, and your kids need to see you be a human being.
Yes.
Right.
And whenever you cross the line, what better way to teach them that you crossed the line or you made a mistake or you said something or whatever than to say, I need you to know that I was wrong. And maybe if it was towards them, it's like, ask for forgiveness. I'm sorry that I did that. What are some things that you have prioritized over the years that you feel have been like the most beneficial from your kids? Again, we got younger kids. There's things right now that we think matter, but it might not matter.
Yeah.
But you don't know sometimes till again, they're gone. Yeah. And it's like, oh man, I wish I would have done this, or I wish we would have put more weight into this than this. I don't know. So just kind of an open-ended question. What's some things you look back, you're like, man, we prioritized that well and it was beneficial, or we didn't prioritize that well?
So I would say a huge one is sitting down at this table every night for dinner. Even when Braden and Caleb were playing rec league football and they would start practice at like 5:30, I think. I would come home, I would cook an early dinner. They would, we would all sit and eat together, and then they would go to practice. Just because there's something about being around the table together that just facilitates conversations that you're not going to get anywhere else. Absolutely. Especially with boys. I think girls are more apt to tell you about their day and tell you what's going on. But boys, you kind of have to get them in front of you. They don't want to talk like one-on-one like this, but you can sit next to them and they'll tell you a lot more. So that's really important for us. That's always been a non-negotiable. I mean, pretty much every night of the week, unless we have a function, we're going to sit down and eat dinner together. Like our kids think it's a treat to have a frozen pizza and dad not cook, But, and then also I would say we have always, like through their sports or activities, it's always, we're all going to go and watch whoever's game or whoever's performance. Like, it's just a non-negotiable. Like, that's what we do. We support each other. We're a team, We've really carried that team aspect into our family. And, I mean, I've always told them, like, one day me and dad are not going to be here. And, like, you guys are the family unit, like, y'all got to keep the team together. So I think it's really important for us to be present at their games. If they have a function, we're going to be there. I think it means a lot to look up in the stands and see your mom and dad sitting there and to know that you matter to them, and what you're interested in matters to them. Yeah. So
I can be the annoying parent in the stands, but Allie's cheering right now, and I'll always say, "Go, Allie!" And she's going to look up right at me and smile. Like even though I'm the annoying dad, it means the world to her that I'm there. And when she does a little stunt, she's going to look right at me.
What would you say to young parents out there who they feel overwhelmed with their young kids? Now looking back, like what would be your advice, a thought, a sentence to like encourage them or to help with them with perspective or whatever, about the season that they're in?
This too shall pass.
And mine was, it's just a season. There's going to be, I remember thinking like he's never gonna, get rid of his pacifier, or he's never gonna switch from a bottle to a sippy cup.
He's never going to sleep all night.
Right. He's never gonna cut a piece of paper with scissors straight. I won't name names, but there are seasons for things, and I remember looking back now, thinking of those specific things, and then I would be complaining about the next thing that they're not doing, and I didn't even realize we had already gotten through the other thing I was complaining about, So I think, just trying to find joy in the moments, and I know it's hard, it's exhausting, it's controlled chaos is what we like to say, because with 4, our house was bonkers all the time. But it's also a lot of fun, kids are fun, they have great personalities, they have so much energy, and in the moment it can be overwhelming, but you're going to get through it.
Well, with your firstborn, it's like, when are they going to start crawling? When are they going to start walking? When are they going to get rid of this pacifier? When it's when, like, when are we going to get there? And with Allie, it was slow down. Let me take a mental picture of this moment, because this doesn't last forever.
There's a couple of years ago, I think it might have been Instagram or whatever it was, and you're just scrolling, all of a sudden something comes up and you like stop. And it was, and probably y'all heard of it by now, but it's like you don't know the last diaper that you changed. You don't know the last time that you have to bathe your kid. You don't know the last time that you have to put toothpaste on the toothbrush for your kid. You don't know the last time that moment happens. And then one day you realize, I haven't done that in like 6 months. And it's like, and then all of a sudden, it's like, maybe, do you need help putting the toothpaste on your toothbrush? Do you need, and they're like, no. And you're like, and you're like, you hope you don't miss it. But sometimes it's like you're always looking at the next thing, and you don't know what's right in front of you. And that can happen in marriage, that can happen with kids. It's such a tension in life. We're wanting to get to the next thing so much, and then you get there and you're like, actually, there was a lot of, man, that was beautiful, actually. And you can't go back. So last thing we want to talk about, last part, is just a little bit about money. The mindset around how people handle money is so varied. It's not always like a one size fits all. Everything's not apples for apples, but there's certain approaches and mindsets around how to think about money and wealth, and in a way that's conducive to healthy finances. One mindset I've seen over the years is where a lot of married people, they kind of keep their finances separate. They have this idea of like, well, this is yours, this is mine, and it gets it's like they retain this individualistic mindset about their possessions, their money, their time, really anything. But it lacks that team, that we. It's more like me over we, right? I guess what's been y'all's mentality around your money, just everything that you guys have? What's your mentality when it comes to that?
So from day one, it was our money. We put both of our payroll checks into the same account. We're paying all the bills out of that account, because, it takes both of us to make it work. And
well, to be transparent too, you don't want to hide anything from your wife.
Right.
And I don't want to hide anything from her. So wherever your money goes, that's where your heart is, really. And so she's seeing what I'm purchasing, and I'm seeing what she's purchasing, and we have one account. And it's God's money. Everything we have is God's. There's been a time in our lives where things were tough, and you really have to budget. That's what's crucial is budget. And, we've had to give up things in the past, but there's been a time where, I didn't know if my business was going to make it. And when you ultimately put the weight on God and not yourself, I'm just like, God, am I going to get a paycheck this week? It's up to you. Like, I don't know. And he's always provided. I'm very thankful for that. But that takes the stress of all the businesses of mine. It's really God's businesses.
Which is a huge mentality, man. You can say that, not you, but like someone could say that, but then there comes a point in life where it's not just the words, there's conviction behind it, which is like, no, God, really, I recognize that you're my source of a lot or little. You're still my source. And so I'm just stewarding it. I'm not the source of it. and then the principles of the word and all that it all comes together, and it's amazing how God provides.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I guess I would assume probably that the same heart and mindset that you had whenever you didn't have a lot, as far as God, this is yours, and I'm going to be faithful with what I have. It's the same mentality now that you're in a different season where it's like, hey, we got a lot of things rolling, things are being successful, there's a lot of growth, but it's still the same mentality of like, ultimately, God, this is yours, and I'm still handling this in the same with the same heart. It might be more, but it's the same heart.
In the tough season, one of the tough seasons in our life, we had to give up some things. Like it was coming down to the budget, and I had to give up some things. Morgan gave up some things, and one of the things that she gave up, she's like, I'm no longer gonna get Starbucks coffee. That's just, it's an expensive coffee, and it's a pleasure, and it's one of those things we're just gonna have to give up. And we gave God the budget and said, that we're gonna make this work. Well, within 2 weeks after that, God sees you and saw Morgan, and randomly people in the church gave Morgan $45 or $50 in Starbucks gift cards.
Yeah. Just like,
Now you tell me God doesn't care about you.
Yeah, right.
God took care of it. He's like, I see what you're doing. I see that you're giving
the
up
heart.
and your heart, and I'm still going to bless you.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of you.
Yeah.
It's those little things that it does. It's true. It's like, it seems like, oh, that's just coincidence. It's like,
Yeah.
no, whenever like 10 of those happen,
Right.
you're like,
Right.
no.
And no one knew.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
No
it's
one
not
knew.
like we posted on Facebook. Like,
I was about to
we're
say.
giving up Starbucks.
Hint, hint, winky
Yes,
face.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, so I've asked a similar question about marriage and parenting. I want to ask it about finances. Is how do you guys make a financial decision together? What does that look like?
I would say lots of conversation. And we both pray about it.
I focus more now on assets than liabilities.
Yeah.
And whereas years ago, I would have bought a boat, and now I'm buying a business.
Yeah.
So you have to make the right decisions. Morgan trusts me a lot more now on the decisions that I've made because God's blessed us. He's taken care of us, and I've been able to buy some businesses and some assets that produce money, and I'm not spending money on the boat and the RV and the camper.
Right. Not that those are bad. I mean, we had a camper for a while. We made great memories with our kids.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it was like, was that the best financial decision? Like, could we really afford that at the time? We made it work, but it probably was a financial lesson,
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's honest. It's like what priority, and then you spend some time maybe with the wrong priority, or maybe not the best priority, but you learn from that and you adjust.
Right.
Sometimes it's like if we're doing something, well, we're doing it, we're committed to it. Adjust.
Right.
Reprioritize.
Yes.
And but you make it together. You talk about it. You don't just go off and make a giant purchase and then come home and say, "Hey, look what I did."
Right. Yeah.
And I've done that.
You have.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson.
There you
He
go.
went and bought a 4-wheeler.
Hey,
Didn't tell me.
It was a used 4-wheeler, and it was a deal.
it was a good deal.
Yes.
But baby, listen.
Yes, it's always a deal.
I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Big time.
He bought me a dog after that.
Oh, wow.
It was after the dog you learned your lesson.
That's
Dude.
great.
Oh man. Just the last question about money, and then we'll kind of wrap up. It's just, what's some advice that you'd give to young people who are who may look at where you guys are at in life right now, whether it be the business side of things, or just as a family, and financially, and they'd say, man, I'd love to be in that position one day.
Read Proverbs every day. Not the whole book, just a little snippet, and digest it, and read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay. Yeah.
That was trying to kind of change my mindset on the way I think.
Well, yeah, he's always like, oh, in Proverbs it says this. I'm like, okay, you can quote it all.
Well, I would say your biggest investment is yourself, and so don't never stop learning. And
Right.
you can fill your mind full of trash every day. You can scroll and scroll and scroll through reels, but you also want to select the people that motivate you, and you want things that are life-giving in your life and push you. You don't want to just have brain rot all the time. And so listen to podcasts, listen to audiobooks that motivate you and push you.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for
letting us come to y'all's farm and hang out. What did you say, JP Farms?
Yeah, JMP Farms.
JMP Farms, very nice.
Also, Peter's Party Palace.
Peter's Party Palace?
Yes.
I hope all of you were able to get something out of today's conversation. You know, many of you probably find yourselves in a place wondering if your family can improve. Can you get out of the pit that you feel that you're in? And I just want to take a second and encourage you and say there is hope. Keep learning, keep applying the godly principles that we've talked about to your life. And I believe you're going to see things begin to shift for the better. I truly believe that when we live according to God's design, He is glorified and we are healthier. I'm not saying it'll always be perfect, but I'm saying that it's better than doing things your own way. So as we close, I just want to pray over every family represented at Northwood, and I also want to pray over the next few months as a church. And so let's pray together. Father, we come before you. God, first off, God, I just pray for each family. Every family unit, no matter the structure, it might be single parents, it might be grandparents with kids, it could be a lot of different ways that the family looks, but Lord, at the end of the day, it's relationships between people. God, there's so much conflict, there's so many things that can come against unity in the family. And so Father, right now, God, I just pray for wisdom, I pray for grace. Lord, I pray for healing in families that are dealing with struggling. There's such a struggle right now. The environment of the home is full of chaos and static. God, I'm praying for your peace to enter those homes. God, that parents would be able to communicate well, Father, that there would be the fruits of the Spirit operating in the family. God, that you give us wisdom in our finances. You give us wisdom in parenting. Lord, we need your wisdom. God, we know that you designed the family. We know that you designed marriage. And so, Father, we go back to you as the source of wisdom for these things. And God, we also pray for our church, all the things that are coming up, groups and events and all of this. Father, we pray for your blessing upon these things. God, that we would grow as a people, that we would grow individually, that we would grow collectively. God, we pray for protection over our church from the enemy that would seek to kill, steal, and destroy. And God, we just pray for your will to be done. We thank you that we're alive. We thank you for your grace over us, God, that we are saved, that we are redeemed. Help us to be light and salt to the earth. We love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.